Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. After years of searching, Donald Trump finally found an attorney general who would act as his personal lawyer. Todd Blanche, his actual former personal criminal defense attorney. He's already shielded Trump from the law and brought the law down on Trump's critics. But Blanche's confirmation bid appears to be dead in the water tonight, at least as of now, because two Republican senators are withholding their support. That's because the White House and Blanche refuse to rule out their most corrupt, unpopular plan yet to steal a whole lot of your money. That, of course, is the $1.8 billion weaponization slush fund the DOJ agreed to create in May when they settled Citizen Trump's lawsuit against President Trump's IRS. The plan they concocted was a $1.8 billion taxpayer money fund that Trump could distribute to January 6th insurrectionists and, of course, himself. As part of that settlement that Blanche signed onto, that Blanche negotiated, Blanche also gave Trump, his sons, and their businesses total immunity from prosecutions or fines or even IRS audits. You may be saying to yourself as I read this all, I thought that slush fund plan was dead. It was such a brazen move that it caused a massive backlash among Democrats and Republicans, voters and elected officials. Basically, no one liked it. Multiple lawsuits sought to stop it. A federal judge blocked it. Last month in a hearing, Blanche told Congress it was dead. And yet here we are tonight. Two Republican senators on the Judiciary Committee, Thom Tillis, who is retiring, and John Cornyn, who lost his re-election primary to a Trump-endorsed candidate, have said that they'll vote to confirm Blanche as Attorney General if and only if he confirms to them in writing what he said in Congress, that the slush fund is dead and there's no bringing it back in some other form. It's a laughably simple ask. And yet somehow Blanche hasn't done it. So they're blocking a vote on his nomination. Today, both senators told reporters that someone higher up in the White House is ruining their efforts to strike a deal on Todd Blanche.
Todd Blanche is negotiating in good faith. But it's clear that the approval to get this done is above his pay grade, and we just need to get to that pay grade. I don't believe it's the president.
Have you talked to the president?
No.
No. Would a call from him help?
Yeah, he could fix this in a minute. But I don't know who he's listening to or whether he's motivated to do that.
Who do you think is the mysterious person in the White House who's got a high pay grade that isn't Donald Trump that's really invested in the slush fund? Maybe it's Donald Trump. Less than an hour after those statements, Donald Trump struck back. Quote, Todd Blanche is a star and everyone knows it. He posted, I have no objection to temporarily withdrawing Todd's name if they do not do the right thing and putting him back after Cornyn and Tillis are out of office. In other words, fine. We'll just pull his nomination back. He'll stay as acting. That's how much I care about this slush fund. Now, why would Trump threaten that instead of just telling Blanche to write that the slush fund will never happen? Tillis and Cornyn seem performatively flummoxed by this very simple question. For instance, it makes no sense to me, Tillis told another reporter today. This is not popular. The president's not winning on this issue. It is killing some of our candidates because they can't explain it. And now it looks like they weren't being honest when they said the slush fund was inoperative. Now, let's be clear just for a second here. There shouldn't be a single vote in the United States Senate for Todd Blanche as Attorney General. Not one. The guy has already corruptly abused his power in more ways than you can possibly count, including personally interviewing the only person convicted of aiding notorious sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein and then getting the Bureau of Prisons to waive its own rules to put her in a cushy minimum security prison. He oversaw a series of absolutely corrupt and abusive prosecutions that have been thrown out of court. And then to top it all off, he was the guy that managed the president's slush fund settlement. It was a move that a federal judge said amounted to, quote, fraud on the court. So egregious, she referred him to the New York Bar Association for an ethics investigation. The guy shouldn't even be a barred lawyer, let alone attorney general. He has already been the most corrupt attorney general of the past half century or more, worse than John Mitchell, the Watergate guy. Cornyn and Tillis are still Republicans. They are desperate to get to yes and vote to confirm Blanche because fundamentally that's what Republicans do. They're part of the whole team. They're Trump guys, even though they say they aren't. So they simply decided to take a modest stand on the thing that has angered Republicans the most, which is the obviously corrupt slush fund. They're just trying to get Blanche to commit in writing, just write it down, sign it, what he already said to Congress last month.
We are not moving forward with the fund.
Not moving forward ever.
Correct.
Oh, there's no more fund then.
Well, to the extent there was a fund, and remember, the fund wasn't set up yet.
So if it won't progress after June 12th, that's great to hear, and we hope to see this in writing. Yeah.
I mean, I think there'll be a transcript of what I say here, so that will be in writing.
That was kind of weird, right? Like, just put it in writing. Last month, when a federal judge blocked the slush fund and said she'd lift that order if within a week the Justice Department sent her a declaration filed under penalty of perjury, the fund was dead once and for all, she told the court, we just don't have the absolute certainty this fund won't rear its head in another form. What do you think happened there? Blanche did not give her that written guarantee. Grace Meng tried, nothing. Federal judge tried, nothing. Instead, as acting attorney general, he is actually still approving anti-weaponization payouts to right-wing defendants and convicts. Most recently, it was $1 million payment that the Justice Department made to an anti-abortion activist who was convicted and then pardoned by Trump last year. Why do you think Todd Blanche won't permanently commit in writing to no slush fund? Can you figure it out, dear viewer? Can you puzzle it through? Tillis and Cornyn may still be wondering, but I've got a theory. Donald Trump wants your money. He hatched a plot for what we have called on this program the single greatest heist in American history to extract $1.8 billion from the federal treasury, like backing up a Brinks truck to Fort Knox and then driving it straight to Mar-a-Lago. And he won't let it go because he's so close to carrying out the heist. How much more obvious does it have to be? The plan is to hand it out to people who the law was weaponized against. The people who pulled off January 6th, the people who bashed in the heads of cops. But of course, he views himself as the biggest victim.
The horrific violations of my rights by crooked Joe Biden's weaponized Department of Injustice are unthinkable. Our country is going to hell, and they come after Donald Trump, weaponizing the Justice Department, weaponizing the FBI. Never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents. Something I know something about.
Now, don't forget, the Blanche settlement would also mean that Trump and his sons and businesses, all of them together, never have to face any future scrutiny for any past income or tax returns or possible crimes. You think he doesn't want that very badly? Yes, it's crazy from a political standpoint. It is one of the least popular things he has pursued. It's part of why he has managed to hit his all-time low in 3 successive polls in just the last 3 days. Voters keep telling pollsters he breaks his promises. He doesn't have their interests at heart. You got me there. But what is that compared to $1.8 billion in your pocket? Why do you think the guy tried to become president again?